Okay, let's jump right into this explainer and uncover what is basically a hidden financial trap being set for European innovation by the EU AI Act. We hear a ton about the technical rules of this legislation, but today, we're going to look at the cold, hard numbers. This is an explainer about something that really isn't getting nearly enough attention: how the very structure of these new regulations is systematically shifting the financial landscape for tech companies. It's not just about following the rules anymore. It's about the sheer amount of money required just to play the game.
€200,000. By August 2026, that is the staggering upfront compliance bill about to hit the market. If you're developing a high-risk AI system, our source data, which is based on cost models from previous privacy laws like GDPR and current market trends, tells us your competitor is about to spend roughly 200 grand just to get compliant. And the harsh reality? So are you. The deadline is looming, and this is literally the entry fee just to legally exist in the European market under these new rules. And this comparison brilliantly illustrates the core problem with the legislation. On one side, we've got a startup that just raised €5 million. On the other side, you have a tech giant like Google with its €280 billion in annual revenue. The compliance cost is exactly the same for both of them. But while that price tag is identical for a pre-product startup and a massive global corporation, the actual financial impact is devastatingly unequal. Let's dig into exactly how that happens.
Part 1. The math that kills startups.
Let's see how this math actually breaks down for a brand new company trying to get off the ground. The crucial takeaway here is that a startup with zero revenue is forced into massive spending right out of the gate. Just look at this breakdown. You've got €50,000 just for the initial audit and classification. Boom. Then another $80,000 for documentation and governance setup. You have to bring on a part-time compliance officer for $40,000 and spend $30,000 on ongoing monitoring. That brings your total to €200,000 in year one alone, your pre-product. You raise money to build, to hire, to reach the market. Instead, you're forced to burn this cash just to legally exist. To put that into a relatable perspective, that is 4% of their entire runway instantly gone. Poof. Drained before they've shipped a single product or signed a single customer. It's a massive financial handicap placed right at the absolute starting line of innovation. Now, here is where the real irony kicks in. Let's look at the other end of the spectrum. For Google, let's say they spend a massive €430 million annually on compliance across all their systems. When you put that up against their €280 billion budget, it represents an almost invisible 0.15% slice of the pie. It's absolute pocket change to them. The rule of thumb here is brutally simple. The cost of compliance is fixed, but the pain of compliance is entirely proportional to your size. Startups bleed, while the giants don't even blink. Part 2. The consolidation trap. Because this cost is a flat fee, while the pain is totally proportional, we're witnessing a systemic barrier to entry popping up. The source material outlines a few very real scenarios playing out right now. Imagine a brilliant Berlin team that just raised €3 million. They sit down, they do the math, and they realize they need nearly €300,000 for full compliance infrastructure, legal review, and audits. They're basically forced to choose between building their actual product or paying for compliance. They literally can't afford both. The result? They pivot away from AI entirely, they pack up and move to San Francisco where the rules are different, or they just close their doors. Or consider a profitable French software company, a solid SME with $30 million in revenue. They want to launch a brand new AI feature. The compliance cost is estimated at €300,000. Well, their entire marketing budget for the year is $400,000. So just to fund this compliance, they have to butcher their marketing budget by 75% or delay their product launch by an entire year. Meanwhile, they're losing critical market share to a US competitor who shipped 18 months earlier because they didn't carry that same regulatory burden. And then there's the final scenario, consolidation. Startups that build incredible tech but simply cannot afford these ongoing compliance fees are being forced into early acquisitions. They get bought up by larger players for half their actual value. And it's not because it's a huge strategic win, it's just to survive the regulatory costs. Ultimately, this leads to fewer independent European winners and essentially hands more market dominance straight to massive, often American, corporations. This data from Gartner really drives the point home. It projects that by 2026, the top 5 tech companies will account for 80% of global AI governance spending. So the other 95% of AI companies in Europe are left splitting the remaining 20%. What this actually means in practice is that the median European SME is spending significantly more per unit of their AI system than a giant like Google is. It is pure market consolidation, driven directly by regulation. Part 3, the forever cost. Honestly, the upfront fee isn't even the worst part. It's the structure of these obligations that really hurts. The regulation mandates something called post-market monitoring. What this means is that once you deploy an AI system, you're required to monitor it. Forever. Not for 1 year, not until a specific milestone is met. Indefinitely. There's no finish line and there's no off-ramp. Compliance becomes a continuous compounding cost with zero return on investment. It is just pure friction. And these costs just stack up relentlessly. Keeping just one single AI system compliant means 200,000 euros in year 1. By year 3, factoring in ongoing updates and audits, you're at 400,000. By year 5, it's dragging you down with a cumulative 670,000 euro burden. Over 10 years, you're looking at well over €1,000,000 for one single system. For a startup, this isn't just a business expense. It's a heavy financial anchor that actively prevents you from competing on a global scale. Part 4. Who wins, who loses? So you have to ask, who actually benefits from this setup? Well, according to the analysis we're reviewing, it creates a very stark divide. The clear winners are American tech giants who can easily absorb these costs, Chinese AI companies operating outside the EU, compliance consultants who are building a massive new industry, and of course, the regulatory authorities. The losers? Unfortunately, they are the European startups facing insurmountable barriers, the European SMEs seeing their margins completely crushed, the tech talent migrating away from all this friction, and basically overall European innovation. The EU's intent was absolutely to protect citizens, but the source suggests it has accidentally built a massive protective moat for foreign giants who just don't face the same friction.
Which brings us to a seriously powerful quote from the analysis. It redistributes wealth upward to giants and eliminates the middle. In business terms, it's called regulatory capture. It's a system that, regardless of its original good intent, functionally punishes mid-market innovators, all while rewarding the massive corporations that can easily afford to pay the compliance tax. Part 5. Surviving the AI Act. Because hey, at the end of the day, you still have a business to run. So how do you actually deal with this? The source material makes a really vital point here. Right now, consultants are charging 500 euros an hour simply to tell you to be terrified and to over-comply. You have got to abandon that fear-based spending. Instead, you need a framework based on 3 core things. First, clarity, knowing exactly what obligations actually impact your specific business. Second, prioritization, getting the absolute maximum protection for the lowest possible cost. And third, transformation, finding clever ways to turn this mandatory compliance into a competitive advantage, rather than just treating it as a sunk cost. And this is exactly where Theleme-confidential comes in. They provide the precise framework you need to navigate this financial trap without bleeding your budget dry. They help you cut right through all the fear-mongering so you can figure out what is actually required for your business, keeping your runway focused on real innovation rather than just regulation. You'll see their logo on the screen. You definitely want to visit them at theleme-confidential.system.io to get that clarity. As that August 2026 deadline rushes toward us, hundreds of founders are literally losing sleep over this exact issue. So the choice is yours. Are you going to be paralyzed by the fear and the cost, or are you going to learn to outsmart the trap by understanding the real financial game being played? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer today, and remember, don't let compliance kill your innovation. Make it work for you.